about this area of scripture. It might bother some of y'all, and you'll say, okay, Aaron, this golden calf, he did it. Maybe the people pressured him, maybe the people forced him, but then how come he wasn't punished in the same way that the Israelites? Well, okay, he's the brother of Moses, so that might be one of the reasons why he's not given the same sort of punishment. Now, that would seem to be logical, but under further inspection and review, that is a logical fallacy. In other words, most people think, well, look, Aaron, he makes the calf, right? He makes this particular golden calf, which the people worship, right? But the people are put to the sword by the Levites. So this is one popular image we can say of the golden calf. This is another view, another perspective of the golden calf, right? That Aaron made for the people. So we can say maybe this is this an Aaron type figure? You understand? Or perhaps Aaron is not figured here. This is the people now worshiping, because Moses didn't return. Moses didn't come down from the mount in the time that they expected. So they felt that we didn't know, that we don't know what happened to him. So we need to, keep moving. You understand? So we see a lack of patience, impatience, right, leading to disobedience, and that impatience leading to disobedience ultimately leads to death, right? In other words, the people, instead of going forward, because they heard the command and they said, we will hear and we will do. After Moses doesn't come down, they don't see Moses around anymore. It's like they retrograde, and on a theological or spiritual level, you understand, or even a spiritual evolutionary level, they devolve. They don't continue the forward revolution, but they basically retrograde and they go back to what they were familiar with. So now Aaron, right? Aaron says that these be the gods that brought you up out of Egypt. But wasn't it Yahweh that did he sin by saying this? It would seem so. From a Western white Gentile, from the perspective that most of us are approaching it initially, it seems as though Aaron, he erred, because he's saying that these are the gods that brought you up. These are the gods that brought you up. This golden calf right here is what brought you up out of Egypt. But then when the judgment comes down, right, when the judgment comes down, now furthermore, look what Aaron says here in verse 5. And when Harlem saw it, he built an altar before it, and Aaron made a proclamation. He made a awaj. He made even a proclamation and said, tomorrow is a feast, a festival to Yahweh. So that's like saying to the folks, tomorrow's a party. We're going to have a feast, a festival, a celebration to the Lord. So is this incongruous here, that he's saying a feast to the Lord or to Yahweh, and then he fashions this particular calf right here, this molten image he fashions, right? He says, let's just forward it, rewind it right here. He said, these are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up. But wasn't it Yahweh who brought them up? So what's the connection between this? You see, the mystery of Egypt, the ancient Kamite mystere, overstood from its root, Ethiopic perspective, will explain this, and hopefully we'll be able to also further explain the connection with the golden calf, right, in that particular day and time, and the golden calf in this present time, 2012, and the sign of Nibiru or Elanim, the star of doom and gloom, the Kokeb star of the 8th millennium. All right? So, verse 6 here says, and they rose up early in the morning and offered burnt offerings. So now the next day they rose up early on the morrow, and offered burnt offerings and brought peace offerings. And the people sat down to eat and to drink and rose up to play. Now, it's very interesting because up until this time, there's no legislation on burnt offerings or peace offerings. There's no description. After this time, we get a description. We're in the book of Leviticus in this present period right now, and we're going through many different descriptions of the main 5 types of different sacrifice and how these are types of the perfect sacrifice of Yeshua HaMoshiach, of the Moshiach, of Christos, of Christ, even Christ in his kingly character. But here at this particular point in Exodus 32 and 35, we actually have them going through burnt offerings and peace offerings. So they were already familiar with burnt offerings. It wasn't a new thing, but it's the context, as we mentioned about salvation, it's the perspective. As we said, for the Hebrews, why Yahweh is the God of the Hebrews, because they have crossed over from that objectified, which becomes even idolatry, form of so-called symbolism, and actually are experiencing, you understand, what the symbols actually imply. So the symbols here originally were meant interpretively, but as people, as people, how can you say, did not grow, but basically retrograded in their consciousness because of, we can say, original sin. And what's original sin? Because of ignorance, because of not understanding the true faith, the true interpretation, will remain amongst a few. And these are the Hebrews, because the Hebrews, even in ancient Egypt, was a particular class of, some say, a class of priests, and some say it was a particular religion or a religious, like we have Christianity today, and we have a lot of different denominations. People say, I'm Christian. You understand? But they believe sometimes vastly different things depending on their denomination. So they all identify, in a sense, with Christ. You understand? But how Christ is interpreted, and then how that dictates how they act, how they live. Some don't experience anything truly in Christ. It is basically similar to this golden calf. It's an idol. You know what I'm saying? They see it, they look at it, and they feel, well, by and by, I'll be all right after I die. But they don't really experience it. So it's no longer ephemeral. It is no longer an experience. He who feels it, knows it, it becomes objectified, and then therefore becomes an idol. Yovas? All right. Now, with that being said, let us go forward, right? Let us go forward. So it says right here that they rose up early on the morrow, early on the next day, and they offered burnt offerings and peace offerings, and the people sat down to eat and to drink and rose up to play. Now, this particular phraseology is interesting because we'll find the same kind of phraseology speaking of the end times, where the people, they focus on, and they should be eating and drinking, right? It's like Noah, what happened in the time of Noah, the days of Noah. They shall be eating and drinking, marrying, and giving in marriage. So we even have this whole so-called same-sex, homosexual, falsely called gay marriage. And there's no longer happy marriages among heterosexuals. Is this a coincidence? Is there more to it? So even the idea of the word gay really means happy. It always meant happy. If you read older literature, sometime in this modern time, laws and times have been changed, have been perverted. It's like a spell. It's like grimoire. It's like grammar. Changing words, concepts, what it means, taking it from its true etymological meaning to another meaning. But that's another reasoning. That's another reasoning there that hopefully we'll present in another lecture. But right here, this language here is very interesting. Make a note of it. The people sat down to eat and to drink, right? Eating and drinking, and rose up to play, taking life as a toy, as a plaything. not recognizing or realizing the true purpose of life. You understand? And this earth, and this schoolroom, this classroom. You understand the true purpose of spirituality. You understand the true consequences in this world and the world to come of our actions, and moreover of our consciousness in tune with our actions. Whether we have debt, negative karma, or whether we have good karma, barakat, blessing. Now, verse 7, 32 and 7 here says, and Yahweh said to Moses, go, get thee down, for thy people, which thou broughtest out of the land of Egypt, have corrupted themselves. Now notice something. Yadon is saying to the people that this calf, this tijah, this word tijah misal yihichnat, right? That this particular symbol, right? This particular calf is your God, is your gods that brought you up out of Egypt, right? Now Yahweh, right, the Lord, if you please, Yahweh here says to Moses, right, this Moses, right, go, get thee down. And it was come down off of this mount now. You know, this was a close encounter. You know, Moses was up on the mountain in a close encounter, right? For thy people, which thou, Yahweh says that Moses, you male, you broughtest them out of the land of Egypt. But they have now what? Corrupted themselves. They have cheapened themselves. They have devalued themselves. In other words, they have gone backward. You understand? They've lacked patience. You remember in Revelation what it says? It says that patience is the what? The imnet of the Kedusan, is the faith. Patience is the faith of the saints. It's the confidence. It's the trust. Because they know the truth, so they can be patient. They recognize the cycles. They recognize that what you sow, you reap. You understand? And they recognize that they must till their garden. You understand? They must till the good ground in order for the seed, the word, to be most effective. But these, right, have corrupted themselves. They've cheapened themselves. They've devalued their spiritual currency, their spiritual current, in other words, because no longer were they walking in the experience. Now they needed an object. You understand? So they fell from, it's that 1/3 of the heaven, you know, spirit, soul, and body, that 1/3, that on the physical, because they lost the true spiritual, the true psychological, you understand? And now they became, idolatrous. They went backward, in other words. No longer in the experience, but they needed to objectify it. You see, they needed to objectify it. So in other words, they solidified it. And this is where the movement now becomes, it reaches the rate of inertia. You see what I'm saying? Whenever you deal with idolatry, you have to understand what's happening on the spiritual scientific level, no longer in the experience. So this means that what Aaron said in a very interesting way was true when he said that these be the gods which brought y'all out of Egypt. On the level from the from the idolater, for the idolater of ancient Egypt, for the one who objectified it, this golden calf was the symbol of it. But for the true Hebrew, who should have crossed over from death to life, from the lower to the higher, from low degrees to high degrees, you understand, it was an experience. You know what I'm saying? It was an experience. It was not objectified. But what, therefore, if this is a symbol of it, what is this really a symbol of? What really occurred and what really happened? And what is, what is that connection? What is that connection? Let's move some of this out the way right here. What is that connection with this right here? And this is the Nibiru, right? This is Nibiru, Right? This is an image of Nibiru. Notice the wings. Notice the horns. You see the horns right here?